Don Rumsfeld is going to do an interview with Al-jazeera, and it's with their Washington bureau chief, Abdurrahim Fukara. It gets a little contentious, which I enjoyed. Let's watch.
To what extent do you think that those criminals that you've just talked about and the policies that your administration at that time pursued in Iraq were equally responsible for the killing of innocent Iraqis because, for example, you did not secure the borders of Iraq going into Iraq with 130,000, 140,000, which many people in the Pentagon at the time told you was not enough?
You keep making assertions which are fundamentally false. There was no one in the Pentagon said they were not enough. The president went around the room. He asked every one of them, do you have everything you need? Do you have the numbers you want? We went back and forth with the commanders in Iraq and at CENTCOM asking them, do they want additional forces? And the answer was no. And every time they wanted them, when it was yes, they were increased.
Okay, so does that make the numbers right? Does that make the numbers you went into Iraq with right?
Do you want to yell or do you want to have an interview? You have a choice. You have a choice. You're being true to form.
No, but
yes, you are. No, say yes once. Just say yes once.
I'm asking you.
First of all, I didn't hear the yelling at all. He's asking a perfectly good question. The question everybody asks in general, they never ask Rumsfeld because that would be impolite. But didn't you send too little troops? But Rumsfeld says, no, I didn't. No one at the Pentagon ever said we don't need enough troops, except for this guy, Eric Shinseki. He was the Army Chief of Staff, and he said we need several 100,000 troops. And he said that we can't do it with less, which was Rumsfeld's theory. Guess what happened to him? Paul Wolfowitz, who was number 2 for Rumsfeld, said he was wildly off the mark. Rumsfeld rebuked him immediately, and they basically forced him into retirement. Afterwards, the National Security Council Director for Defense Strategy, Corey Shakey, said the message was sent loud and clear that you do not question Rumsfeld. You say, yes, sir. We don't need that many troops, sir, so that when President Bush goes around the room, there's nobody like Shinseki in the room to question him, to question Rumsfeld, and you all say, oh, yeah, absolutely. The very few troops that Rumsfeld wants to send in is a brilliant strategy. So Don Rumsfeld, as usual, absolutely lying, because the Army Chief of Staff said you need so many more troops. By the way, later, even Republican Senator Lindsey Graham from South Carolina said Shinseki was proven right. Later, the head of our military in Iraq, General Abizaid, said Shinseki was absolutely right. The guy who was absolutely wrong was Don Rumsfeld. Now, when he's asked about that, it makes him uncomfortable. He doesn't like it. How dare you question him in an interview? Get a load of the second part.
Do you think that the numbers you went into Iraq, the numbers of U.S. troops that you went into Iraq with, did absolve you from the responsibility of tens, maybe hundreds of thousands of innocent Iraqis killed by the coalition and those criminals that you talked about?
Now, are you going to stop?
Give me a straight answer.
Look, you can characterize my answers any way you want, and you do it in a pejorative way.
No, I'll do it respectfully.
No, you don't at all. You're obviously you are of that nature. It's clear that's your being that you like to do that.
No, I'm asking you respectfully for facts.
No, you're not.
Don't talk about that.
You're not being respectful. You're just talking over and over and over and repeating yourself.
You have just disparaged me as a member of Al-Jazeera, but that's okay. Just give me a straight answer.
How did I disparage you? I said you're not being respectful. You're just talking over and over and over, and that's what you're doing.
Okay, I'll listen.
Anyone listening to this program can see that.
Okay, give me a straight answer, Mr. Secretary.
You know, I listen to you and I think to myself,
this is not about me, Mr. Secretary. This is about me asking you a question.
You're not going to listen.
You're not giving me an answer to my question. If you want to attack me personally, fine. But give me an answer to my question.
Why should I do everything you want and you won't do a thing I want, namely listen?
Interviewer.
Oh, really? And that gives you the privilege to be the way you are?
Seriously, just give me an
answer to my question. What do you mean seriously? I'm being serious.
Okay.
This is worthless. This is not an interview. You're haranguing. That's what you're doing.
I'm listening to you. Just give me an answer.
Well, no, my goodness, we've had a sudden change. Isn't that amazing? I suppose you're going to drop all this on the cutting room floor. That's what you do with it, I suppose, if you don't like it.
So he never gave him an answer. And that's part of his strategy. How dare you ask me a question? But that's my favorite part. And that's why this isn't just about Rumsfeld. This is about the entire establishment in Washington, saying, well, I'm above you. Why are you asking me questions? Because I'm doing an interview. That's what I'm supposed to do, right? No, because he doesn't understand it. Because the U.S. media doesn't do that. The U.S. media is polite and respectful and says, Don Rumsfeld, what would you like me to ask you? Great, I'll ask you that, and you'll answer it, and that's it. I won't ever challenge you. I won't. When's the last time anyone in the U.S. media asked Don Rumsfeld about the hundreds of thousands of Iraqi civilians that were killed in his nonsense war? Ever. He never gets that question. And that's the main question that needs to be asked. So when he's asked, he's like, oh, I don't want to answer it. Oh, you're being so disrespectful by pointing out what a loser I am, what a terrible Secretary of Defense I was.